Let's jump in. Windows 10. Man, you guys are on fire.
Yeah, you know, what we're seeing right now in terms of the interest and the appetite for Windows 10 is like nothing we've ever seen before. More than 300 million Windows 10 devices deployed today. And to give you a comparison on that, that's 145% more devices if you were to compare that to the same number of months post-release with Windows 7. So the appetite is high. We're also seeing now that over 85% of the organizations, the enterprise organizations, are actively piloting Windows 10. And it's being driven by that demand, you know, to get those two-in-ones with touch and mouse, the enhanced security that came in Windows 10. So the demand is high, and Citrix has a number of things that are going to help organizations accelerate the upgrade and migration to Windows 10.
Absolutely, and one of them is AppDNA. So we talked about AppDNA earlier, and while as I said, Win 10's got these, great capabilities to move your apps. But we were talking about this before, Brad and I, and like, look, if you just don't even have 10% of your apps validated, what would that mean? The pain, the time. So using AppDNA for rapid app validation is a big thing, and we've offered it to our joint partners. So any of you, the resellers that you work with, have access to AppDNA to help make that happen. So take advantage of that.
That's good.
Yes,
just to put some context in that, application compatibility has historically been the #1 cost and time associated with an upgrade. And AppDNA just shrinks that so you can get deployed faster.
Right. But I really think this Win 10 VDI service on Azure, this new service that we talked about and announced, is really going to open the doors up. And people are dying to take advantage of the Azure power and deliver VDI.
Yeah, and this is an industry first. This is the first time we've announced the ability for a Windows client to be hosted in a public shared cloud, and we made that announcement here at the Citrix event today. So it's a big, big deal, I think, for the industry.
And finally, tell them about, yeah, there we go. Awesome.
Yeah, I'll take this last one here. And finally, I love the integration that's happened where Zen apps can now be published through Config Manager. So Config Manager manages more than 70% of the world's Windows devices. It's the tool that everybody is using to upgrade to Windows 10. And now Zen app just fits inside of that, and I can publish all apps of all types now through that Config Manager console. It's fantastic.
One console, and now they see everything.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. It's great work.
Great work.
All right, so let's move to Office 365. You know, if you take a look at Office 365, it has become the most commonly used service, cloud service, in the enterprise. There's been more than 400 million downloads of these beautiful native apps on iOS and on Android. You know, it's used by more than 80% of the Fortune 500. And you know, there are more than 70 million monthly active users of the Office 365 services for the enterprise. You know, yesterday, as I got a chance to meet with customers, every single one walked me through their plans to upgrade to Office 365. So let's talk about some of the things that Citrix does here, and then we'll talk about some of the ways that we've actually engineered Office 365 for the Citrix environment.
I mean, so these are beautiful apps being delivered, but sometimes they need plugins and macros, and that's where we come together and help the customer get those macros and plugins delivered as well. But I also want to talk about enabling virtual app and desktop users for Skype for Business. Later, we're going to have a friend of ours from UBS come up and talk about how he's delivered it. But talk about the architecture, the work we did architecturally to make this happen.
So about 18 months ago, the Skype for Business team was out doing their standard research, and they heard loud and clear, we need Skype for Business to run in an optimal way in the Citrix environment. So the Skype for Business team actually has engineered Skype for Business to be optimized in Citrix environments. So we've integrated with HDX, and it's the only protocol that we've integrated with. Then we actually took the Skype for Business app and split it in two. So a portion of it runs in the data center, and a portion of it runs on the client when you're in a Citrix environment. This is the only VDI solution that Skype for Business has been optimized for. So if you want to ask the question, if I'm going to be doing centralized desktops or centralized apps, what's the best way to do it? Citrix.
Great. We'll get validation of that from UBS later. So now, Azure. We made an announcement, preferred and strategic partner, Citrix said about Azure. Talk to us about the numbers. Talk about the growth.
Yeah, it's astounding. I get a chance to sit in these weekly service reviews, and just to take a look at the number of servers, the amount of storage being deployed every week, it's mind-boggling. There are more than 100 data centers in 30 regions. We have more than 120,000 new subscriptions every single month. It's used by more than 55% of the Fortune 500. And an interesting data point on this, more than 25% of the VMs now are Linux. And so we've built this global enterprise hyperscale cloud that allows us to worry about managing all the infrastructure, managing all that complexity, and then partners like you and customers can just take advantage of it. No upfront cost, no CapEx, pay as you go, and the move to the cloud is just accelerating.
Awesome, and here at Citrix, the Citrix Cloud, it's going to be built on Azure, 1. 2, Azure first for all new cloud solutions. So we talked earlier about secure browser. That's an Azure cloud built solution. And finally, our commitment is we're going to be there ready day 0, Windows Server 2016, which ships a little later this year. We're going to be ready because we know as you move into the new platform, you want to make sure everything can be validated. So we're there, we're ready to go.
Awesome, thank you very much.
So let's talk about some numbers.
Yeah, so let's talk about mobility. And so we talked about how we're going to accelerate the move to a couple places, but every one of you have told us, Microsoft Citrix, integrate your enterprise mobility capabilities more so we get more combined value. So let's just set a little bit of market context here. The Enterprise Mobility Suite from Microsoft has now become the largest enterprise mobility management solution by customer in the world. Just kind of give you a view of this, if you take a look at, this is 2 quarters ago, the growth of the Enterprise Mobility Suite compared to AirWatch. If you take a look at what happened in the last 90 days, in the last quarter, EMS outgrew AirWatch by more than 450% in a 90-day period. And so what we've been working on here now is how do we make sure that there's integrated value for all the Citrix assets in the Enterprise Mobility Suite? And then how do we make sure that if you're a Zen Mobile customer, the Enterprise Mobility Suite adds value to you? So there's 4 things I want to touch on real quickly that we're doing. First of all of the Citrix apps are going to be natively instrumented and enlightened to understand the EMS MAM. What that will allow is all the Citrix apps, Receiver, Works, the new forms that we saw yesterday, ShareFile's already done this work, can now participate in the same MAM container as the Office mobile apps, as all the SAP Fiori apps, there are hundreds of those, Adobe Box and others. You take that app ecosystem and the fact that we also manage all apps that are app config enabled, this is now the largest managed app ecosystem in the industry. And that all applies now in a Zen Mobile world. Okay? Awesome. So all of that will be applicable to anybody using Zen Mobile. That's number 1. As an extension to number 1 as well, the Zen Mobile capabilities are also going to take advantage of our identity. So things like multi-factor authentication, things like self-service password reset, which is still 20% plus of all the help desk calls, is all going to be integrated into Zen Mobile as well. That's number 1. Number 2, NetScaler is going to be EMS enabled. And what that means is as EMS managed apps and devices come through NetScaler at their perimeter, NetScaler is going to interact with the EMS services and will be able to enforce conditional access based upon the policies that have been set by EMS. So literally, every EMS customer could also be a NetScaler customer.
Right on.
Number 3, we're going to take some of the NetScaler capabilities and we're going to integrate that into the EMS MAM SDK. What that will allow is any app that's been in line with that SDK will be able to punch through and get access now to any on-premises apps without even having to bring up a VPN. And then finally, Citrix is going to be building a new enterprise mobility management service on Azure. And what that's going to allow us to do is we're going to be able to have the back ends of these services, the EMS services and this new service from Citrix, interoperating with each other. And Citrix will bring all of their experience in security, compliance, especially in these highly regulated business, and we'll do all that work in the cloud and apply that value to all the customers for us. It's phenomenal what we're doing here together.
That's pretty awesome, huh? All right, well, I want to thank you. I want to make sure everyone's clear. We've got these 4 big areas that we're focused on. The relationship's been awesome. We worked on it for a while. It's great to see it came to fruition.
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Brad.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care.